Hey everybody out there, you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan. You're in my corner and I have a very special guest in the corner. Would you like to unveil your secret identity?
Hey Jackie, I'm Andy K. Andy Kitkowski. I'm an RPG geek, Japanese culture and language fanatic, and all around manga geek.
And it's cool for us to have you on the show because, as we explained sort of behind the scenes, and a lot of the listeners are familiar with our wacky antics involving the Made RPG, but it's really nice to talk to you because that's become sort of like a 2 week thing that we all do that we all bond together with.
That's awesome.
So I kind of have to thank you because I get to argue about shoes and other things on the weekend with boys all the time.
Wow, that's incredible.
But obviously you don't just fall into doing that sort of thing. What initially got you interested in role-playing games or maybe Japanese culture? What came first?
Yeah, actually, RPGs. I'd been always interested in tabletop games since like I was in maybe like late elementary school and then junior high school and stuff. I've been kind of tooled around with my own systems and the like, and I was kind of a guy that just runs out and like if any new game came out that looked interesting, I never stuck to one system. I'd pick them all up and just kind of digest them all. A lot of folks in high school were into kind of the schlitzy fan fiction of Dungeons and Dragons and novels and things like that, whereas I was into collecting and reading rules and games and things. On the Japanese side, though, yeah, ever since I was a kid, just for some unexplained reason, I'd always been interested in Japan. I couldn't really put my finger on why, even when asked several times. But for example, if I had a book report or if I had like a social studies report in fifth grade where we can choose a country and report on it, for some reason I picked Japan. I didn't know anyone from Japan, blah blah blah, but just for some reason it was interesting to me. I tried to teach myself language a few times and failed. I'm one of those people that really can't learn unless there's someone cracking a whip over my head and making me do work. So yeah, if you've been through language class, there's two people. I'm so jealous of the people that can just like read a book and like watch stuff and like pick it up. I have to do drills and I'm very lazy, and so if someone's not making me do drills, then I fail. But yeah, so in college, I finally got an opportunity to start taking Japanese a little bit, and loved it so much that I went over there for a semester, and then after college, I lived there for a few years.
Well, now, obviously, you don't just be like, one day I will be a part of Made RPG. How exactly did that project fall into your lap?
Yeah, that was interesting. So I got to give credit, and I hope at some point you guys get Aaron on here too to talk about it. Aaron Clooney, he's the one whose name is on the book. I pop in the book here and there, and my handle on the book is Diamond Sutra. I'm the one that I did some part of the introduction and back. I did some of the translation, a lot of the localization, which I can describe later, and then all the publication, like all the front ending, the costs and organization and getting it in stores and stuff like that. So how it happened was I'd always been into various RPGs. I've been translating this one, for example, for years, like 7 years, in the background, and so every time I go to Japan, which is maybe once every year, once every 2 years, one of the first things I do when I'm landing in Tokyo, before I head home to sort of my family's prefecture, is stop off at some game stores and I'd pick up a bunch of games. Anyway, this one year I stopped by, and they had Made RPG in Japanese, and I was like, "Holy crap, what's this?" So I picked it up and thought it was, I mean, just the concept, right? Just the concept alone, an RPG where everyone's a maid, even in Japan, it's ridiculous. Like like it's just ridiculous. Like even in Japan, if someone's like, What's that?" Holy crap, Japan, why'd you bring this to us? Yeah, no, even in Japan, people looking and they're going, "What the f?" So, so yeah, there was a lot of eyebrows raised and stuff like that. But it was a little bit of a one might say it was almost a mockumentary of that culture. The author had pretty much overnight, this whole maid thing changed Akihabara, the once electronic district, to over years to the became the geek district, manga district, and then later on it became like sort of the maid cafe district. He was baffled by this too, and so sort of a I want to understand this slash make fun of it slash whatever. He basically made this game, but then my friend Aaron, who was also he had helped me on some of my other projects, he got a copy himself, and we were kind of laughing at it, blah blah blah, ha 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 ha. Cut to a couple months later, he's like, yeah, so I was bored one day, so I translated the thing, and I'm like, what? You're insane, man. It's just because I didn't mind reading it, but just actually putting work into putting the words down on paper is just like, wow, he actually went through it. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna run some sessions at this big game convention, and I was like, cool, go for it. And then he did it, and it went well, and a lot of people enjoyed themselves, and I'm like, awesome. And then like there was like a long dot dot dot, and then I was like, hey man, let's publish this, because both of us have been really big fans of RPGs, and we kind of wanted to make stick our toe into the industry a little bit, right? I wanted to do it. Aaron wanted to do it because he wanted to form his own company, and which he has now. And I wanted to do it because I was releasing this, or I'm working on releasing this other game, and I wanted to do like sort of a test run to see how hard independent publishing is, and I want to make sure I hit all the pitfalls and problems with something like made first, and there were plenty, before I went on to sort of like one of my quote unquote dream projects. Um, and that was it. Like about a year later, after much stress and almost killing ourselves and each other and all the world, we got it out in time for a big game convention, and the rest is history.
Well, I will say most fans won't go to that degree, Like, you have fans nowadays who are starry-eyed and like, I'll be a voice actor because that's the only way I know how to work in the anime industry. But,
Mhm.
there's people who do what you did. I mean, you went through the effort to, getting I believe the licensing rights and all that.
Yep.
Was that difficult though, or were they really excited?
So yeah, that's a thing. So I've worked with three, actually, yeah, three. Well, actually, three and a half companies now. On sort of publication stuff, and so the companies tend to be very small. In fact, the company that published Made is literally just like one dude,
Oh wow.
and it's not even the guy that owns the rights to Made. There's the author, Kamiya Ryo, and he didn't. He sort of owned the right. He sort of owned the rights to the game, but it actually published to this company that keeps the rights, and now he's sort of split off from them and is doing all his future stuff by himself with his own company. But so contacted this company, and aside from some slow responses, they were super enthusiastic and interested and willing to bend over backwards to give me data, and that's what I felt like. I've since engaged in two other licensing projects, and developed two other contracts with two other companies, including the biggest RPG company in Japan, and all of them have been nothing but just enthusiastic and supportive. Mainly because over there, to say that you are a internationally published author, not like you spent all this money yourself to have some dude translate it into English or French or whatever, but to have someone else over there recognize your work and then say, I want this in my language, and to pull it over, it's huge, like resume boost. Basically, it's a huge honor. It's a huge like yippee. It's like real recognition. So yeah, it was great for them. So at the company level, everyone was excited. The authors were excited. Just everyone in general was really excited and supportive.
Well, now I have to wonder, have you gone to see fans who have played it, on the English side, have you seen any of their sessions or heard any of the wacky things that they've done with the game?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I've run it a lot, and I've also, at conventions and locally and stuff like that, and I've seen a lot of actual play reports and everything from people running it at conventions or at home, to, for example, if I'm at a convention and someone will just run up to me and be like, "Oh my God," and then tell me about their some game they ran, and I immediately like, uh-huh, uh-huh. And whereas normal people are like backing away slowly, I'm sitting there grabbing my notebook, like furiously taking notes. I gotta use that in my next game, that sort of thing. So yeah, some people from all walks of life are talking about their game, and it's really cool to see. Uh, like you'll have college kids just sitting around on their couches playing it and having a blast. I had a group of like middle-aged women come up to me saying that it was so fun and told me about their characters and things like that. And they had like this ongoing campaign that they play like week after week. It was sort of like an in-between game for them, but it became something more. And of course to the the one-shots and things like that too. And yeah, just the support from across the board, from high school kids who are running it for themselves and their friends at conventions or at home, to middle-aged or older people who are who are somehow fans of anime that quote unquote get it, understand it, and use that sort of background to run a fun game.
Well,
Uh,
it
yeah.
was funny for me when I purchased the game. I think I purchased it in late 2010, I want to
Okay.
say.
Hmm.
And I had been trying for years to get somebody to play with me, but most of the people on staff are guys.
Oh, okay.
And the one other girl didn't want to do it. And I'm like, well, I can't play this game by myself. So it took about a year and a half of convincing until
Hmm.
we finally got the games to go. And so now, almost all of the staff, besides the other co-owner, is a maid. And we have, the one butler and the one master. But it's hilarious now because instead of, having pent up anger across the staff, we just, I just insult their shoes. I won't be friends with I will not be friends with one of the maids. And for the listeners, they know who. It's Siege. I won't be friends with his maid because she has awful shoes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes. And
That's a
our
great. It's a healthy way to let out some frustrations. It's like hey, if you continue this path, 1d6 favor loss, and they're like, no, and then they appease you or whatever. Yeah.
I think the funniest member, if I could pick, is our butler because he
Mhm.
pretends to be like a snake, like he always does. Like, and we had one session where he wasn't doing anything. It was just for the maids. He was just there. So randomly, he would just be like, "Sorry, I'm making bacon." Just randomly throughout the entire thing.
That's awesome.
So we've had a lot of laughter with it. It's a crazy game. So I
It is,
don't
yeah. It's light, it's fun. It's yeah. I've just had so much fun with that game. It's on my shelf. I've got like about 5 games that I have as my go-to games. Like if something falls through, or if some friends show up or whatever, and we want to play something light that we can just get into right away. All right, roll up. Okay, looks like you are a roll. A vampire robot maid, and you are a yakuza werewolf maid, and let's go. And just right there, you have the most insane things happen.
Okay, well maybe you can help me. If I have any other guy friends who are like, I don't want to play this. This is made. I don't want to be a girl. What advice would you give me to convince them?
Um, I would say, so let me tell you a very quick vignette, if I may. So I publish this myself, or me and Aaron publish it ourselves, but we also work with this publishing group, this sort of conglomerate of other publishers called Cell Style. It's the little logo that's on the back of the recent printing of the book, cellstyle.com. And basically these are a group of RPG themed, or excuse me, anime themed RPGs. People who know it, understand it, write about it, talk about it, and have made or translated. Actually, in all cases but mine, made their own anime themed games. They go to conventions bringing made, so for example, there was a big convention in Portland or Seattle or something like that last year, and Jake, who does Modest Medusa, the comic, he's there, selling copies of Made in his games and things like that. And so we'll have have a lovely lady come up and say, wow, this is, I've never played role playing games before, but this looks fun. And then that's even before we drop the spiel. And then the spiel's dropped like, wow, that sounds great. I want to do this. My boyfriend or guy friend or whatever, usually boyfriend, has been wanting me to play something like this forever, and this looks fun, and wow, this, I'm really enthused, this is really cool, let me go get my boyfriend comes over like, what the hell is this? and the girl's like, oh, this looks fun, you always wanted me to play RPG. Not this junk, I want you to play, D&D with me. And then the face kind of falls, and she's okay, and she puts the game back. Like, this isn't like an isolated incident. This is like many, many, many times that we've seen the same thing happen, where like some guys like, I want my girlfriend to play with me, but like they once this anime enthusiast finds something anime-ish that they like, it's like, no, I don't want to play that. So long story short, I was thinking of starting a campaign where if you see that, we just immediately whip out a business card that says, if you break up with your D-bag boyfriend, we will give you the game for half off or something like that. So in short, yeah, just if it's your boyfriend giving you grief, then just tell them that there are other guys out there that will play. But beyond that, I think just sell it on the whole. It's just one session of like maybe 1 to 2 hours. People dedicate far more time for far less fun. If you look at like giant German board games, or like giant sessions of Pathfinder or D&D, which honestly I find fun as well. I love those games as well. But sometimes you get to a session with strangers and it can be kind of a drag on slugfest. But you're like, look, seriously, just 2 hours where you just play an anime made, um, and see what you think. And if you don't like it, you can mock me forever, and I would bet that you will have a convert.
Well, for the listeners out there who want to go and run and get it right now, where can they find it?
You can find it on. You can find more information about it, including order instructions, on maidrpg.com. That's just one word, maidrpg.com. We sell through a couple of retailers and online distributors that are linked to. We also sell directly from the website if you send us an email, and that way you'll save on shipping.
And now I think that's the perfect time to take a break because I expect a lot of guys out there to suddenly pick it up. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
They're probably
you will
threatened
lose your
now.
girlfriends, guys. I'm not
Yes.
kidding.
So make sure to keep it tuned to 91.8 The Fan, where we play everything you want and nothing you don't. Hey, everybody out there! You're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan, and my special guest is still here and alive and breathing, I hope.
Yup.
Yes, he is alive. I didn't do anything. Just so everybody knows. Well, I'm pretty sure at this point it's like a running gag for the people in the live chat to be like, "What are you beating out of them during the break? Like, are you beating them up for secret information?" So.
Yeah, well, yeah, Jackie got me to confess all my sins and told me to really schedule for the next 2 years, and I also sent her all my money. So
Hey, I'm rich now.
you're a dozenaire.
Yes. But no, we were talking a little bit behind the scenes about it, and we were, curious as to, first off, that project that you've been working on for a really long time. You said 7 years?
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like both like wow, stupendous and kind of silly and embarrassing that it took that long, but still. But yeah, yeah. So the game that I've been working on for eternities, for 1.3 metric eternities, my white whale is called Tenra Bansho, which is kind of a play on words of an expression that means everything in heaven and earth. And this was the game that like I went to Japan, like Tokyo in 2001 on a trip, and I went to the game store and I saw it. I'm like, oh my god, I fell in love with it because of the beautiful art. And then I said, hey, like later on, someone contacted me. He's like, hey, let's translate this. So I'm like, cool. So we set about, talked to the company. They're into it and all. And the author, of course, is super supportive. And we started, and then just kind of hit one sort of snag after another. Most of them due to the fact that I've got a really, really, really busy day job. And then I start off with one day job, going like, yeah, this'll work. I'll make it work. I'll hammer at the translation in the nights for a couple hours, and then I'll be done in about a year. One thing led to another. I switched jobs, got a promotion, switched jobs again, got a promotion again, got a promotion. Yeah, now I'm like, whoa, very little time. And since I work with computers, so I work in front of a computer all day for 10 hours a day plus or whatever, and then I come home. Like the last thing you want to do is like just be in front of the computer, quietly reading more and thinking more about computer crap. So there was a little bit of that too, but it's a so that's the problems with that. But the game is insane. It's basically, the best way to describe it is it's littered. It's front to back illustrations. The author of the game itself is an illustrator. He's really famous, actually. He has a book that's on a book series on Amazon that's like always in the top 10. He's become really successful recently, and so he's a really good illustrator. And so there's like these color prints and stuff like that. But basically, it's imagine a fantasy game. And this is something you guys out there will be able to play, but you're a bunch of sissies if you won't play Maid. I think you should have to play Maid before you play Tenra. That'll be my bar to play. But if you play Tenra, it's basically, imagine the feudal era, the Sengoku era, the feudal era of Japan, like the 1600s, on another planet with magic and stuff. So you have like children piloting 3-meter tall mecha, and you have sorcerers, and you have ninjas, samurai that have these weird red metal balls implanted in their body that have like spiritual energy where they go roar and they turn into like the Incredible Hulk with katana. And you have like shrine maidens and these geisha that are carved out of trees and given life. And so all this craziness, and the best part is the fact that like you look at this and you think, wow, this is just going to be like some sort of power tripping, fetish insanity. It's actually like I thought that too, and then I started digging into it, and the more I dig into it, I'm like, oh my god, this thing is wonderful. Like the most powerful character in the game is the one played by the player who basically cries and stabs themselves emo style the most. So it's all about like a samurai. You're a samurai that's super powerful, but what in your life did you lose? Or you're this. There's this child who pilots this mecha that can clear a battlefield of 5,000 opponents, but she's trying to appease her family or father. So everyone's got these really dramatic backgrounds, and the whole game you're trying to play up your background. You actually get rewarded in the game with points. Like if you role play, the other people who take the role of members of like an audience, like of a kabuki play, will be like awesome, and they'll like throw you basically a point, and you use these points to basically boost your abilities and skills and things like that. And it has a very structured, like, this is act one, this is a scene, okay, this is the next scene, okay, now we're gonna have an intermission, okay, now the second act. Yeah, so the book is going to be kind of crazy big, super illustrated, and a lot of data. Although you don't really need that much to play, the rules are actually pretty simple. But it's gorgeously illustrated. It takes place in this wild, very Japanese fantasy game, seeped in sort of like this anime tradition. And yeah, we're finally like on the last path to get it out. I talked with the layout guy who did other games like Burning Wheel, Mouse Guard, and the like. And it looks like we're going to put it on Kickstarter probably within the month. So you'll see it then.
That's very exciting.
Yeah,
Though
yeah.
I have to ask, because we did talk about licensing a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
With this one, with it taking so long, were they a little bit worried?
Probably. I've talked to them on and off like over the years, and they're always like, "All right, good luck." That not much more than that. But I think because them as a company are just really busy, so honestly, they're all sort of like, if it happens, cool. If it doesn't, cool. But if I throw out a word like, "Hey, we're making progress," they're like, "Cool." Just like basically tap us on the shoulder when you're ready. So yeah, the final things are coming together, and it's all coming together, and hopefully it'll be released in like probably PDF will be ready in about 2 months or so, and then the book hopefully after at some point this year.
Well, now, for people who want to stay up to date on it, is there a website? Do you guys have social
Yeah.
media for it?
So the website is Tenra TENRA -RPG.com. So again, Tenra-RPG.com. There's a little blog link on there where you can see pictures of how we're progressing, and I'm probably going to put an update within the next 24 hours of me and the layout guy basically with our faces in rage and anger doing extra layout stuff. And yeah, so as soon as it's updated, you'll probably see, if you follow RPG blogs and stuff like that, you'll probably see some links to it, because again, it's been a lot of people have been expecting it for a while now. But yeah, the Tenra RPG RSS feed or just following the blog is probably the best way to keep an eye on that. So yeah, and the crazy thing is, like, as this is wrapping up, me and my friends have started working on another project. And another project. So
you keep busy.
yeah. I kind of am. What's the English expression? Drowning in my hobbies. But yeah, it is. It does keep me interested, I guess, in things, better than just kind of plopping down and watching TV, I guess. But not by much, because yeah, it can get a little bit obsessive. The fact that I'm working on so much crap. But it's going to be interesting. I'm going to have for Kickstarter, and I'm also planning on doing like just to give like the insight, because I'm not super into like really geeky fan servicey anime, and I'm not super into history of Japan. Like, I got a lot of friends that are big into the military history of Japan and know more about the wars and stuff than I do, but I'm a big geek about society and language. I love reading books about Japanese society and Japanese language, and so there's been a lot of these cool incidents or things that I've been like a single sentence took me like 3 days to translate, because with like this run-on sentence that went on for like a paragraph and blah blah blah. So I've sort of in the back of my head been jotting these notes down, and I'm going to basically put them into sort of like this, like almost like a director's cut side book that I'm going to maybe publish it for the folks that are interested in that sort of thing, so you can kind of see like. Sure, here's the game Tenor Bancho, but underneath that, here's like all the weird things. Here's why the game was so problematic. Here's why, why it was so hard to translate. Here's some cool, here's some deeper level information about how Buddhism works. Here's some deeper level information about how the Shinto in the game came out from real historic events and things like that. So if folks are interested in that, we'll hopefully get something out of that as well.
Well, that'll be nice for players who really want to get into sort of, the world. Like it is, even though the world is kind of, fantasy based, for those who really want to experience it, that's the kind of stuff that they'd want to know.
Yeah, sure. And in fact, on top of that, one of the problems with the game, and what took a little bit longer, was the fact that the author was meant. There's not a lot of like. There's a map that's very vague, and like some country descriptions that are extremely vague, because the author's like, hey, we're all Japanese. What, instead of like being a slave to all this weird, supplemental data about, countries and their major exports and crap like that, why don't you go ahead and make a fantastical kingdom? Make anything you desire and go ahead and do it. And that's awesome if you're Japanese and grew up from childhood on, samurai dramas and anime and stuff like that. For us in the West, it's a lot harder. We don't even know like what period names were like. We might accidentally give them all names like, Momoko and stuff like that are like modern names. So basically I added about 100 pages of extra text, including things like, what did people do in the Middle Ages, and what sorts of names are there? There's like 7 pages of name lists, and background and history, and how to really sort of get the most out of playing the game. Just basically for all those things that for all of us who haven't lived in Japan all our lives and can't just sort of pop out a sufficient Japanese themed setting off the top of our heads, because we don't have that background. There's like a lot of help and stuff to get people doing that.
And while I don't mean to undermine anime fans, the most recent example I can think of that we can base any of that off is Sengoku Basara. So
Yeah, actually, that's funny you mentioned that, because actually I pull some I pull some events and characters into my adventure. I mean, I always blatantly rip off is like the best thing you can do as the GM. It's there's always room for creativity, but it's always great to just kind of blatantly rip off. And I love Sengoku Basara. Like at least the just the sheer sand it has to take history and mash it all up and add lasers and robot suits and stuff like that. In fact, I had one scene that inspired me from that, where Takeda Shingen, like there's this battlefield and Takeda Shingen just falls out of the sky like a meteorite, hits the ground, and then there's like this wave and like thousands of soldiers fly in the air. Yeah, I pull those scenes into the games as well.
well, now, are there any other projects that that you want to promote? Anything that's online where we can keep track of it?
Sure, yeah, actually. So another one that I'm working on is called Ryutama, Ryuutama. Don't go to the first website that has that. Don't go to ryutama.com, because ryutama.com is apparently, because it means dragon egg, but it also means Dragon Ball. And someone said, so a group of translators who translate basically pornographic manga that use that as their group handle. So if you go to ryutama.com, you'll basically be inundated with all this not safe for work pornography. But if you search for like Ryutama RPG, you'll find the site. It's like the first dozen links are all pointed to this one site. And although we haven't announced it as an official product yet, it's coming out this year. I played with the author himself on my last trip to Tokyo about a month ago, and it's the best way to describe it is, if you've played the console game or the old computer game Oregon Trail.
Oh yes.
But like done by Hayao Miyazaki. So like Spirited Away, that sort of thing. So like and Valley of the Wind, Hayao Miyazaki's Oregon Trail. So yes, you basically get on a caravan. It's like a Western fantasy world where everyone is not like heroes and thieves and warriors and wizards. You're all like cobblers and farmers and minstrels and healers, and you kind of wander the world looking basically because everyone gets this need to travel. So you just end up instead of slaying demons and things like that, and in this grim and dark sort of setting, it's a very open, very light setting that focuses on human issues and travel and wonder. So you basically travel from place to place, exploring this fantasy world together.
I won't lie, but I think you have your sales pitch right there. Oregon Trail meets Miyazaki.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I usually count in my head when I say that, and like so because the people who know Oregon Trail are like, "Can you die of dysentery?" Uh, I usually count like 3, 2, 1. Okay, I've been asked. But yeah, you there's a lot of like things like the Oregon Trail aspect is you go to a town, you have to like you have an animal. You have to plan out how much water you're carrying, how much food you're carrying, who's carrying what. Normally, I hate that sort of aspect of games. Like if I'm playing a hero, I don't want to like figure out how much stuff I've got in my backpack. I want to slay demons and stuff. But in this game, it really turns it on its head. It's like this game is about more or less normal people traveling this fantasy world. So you do have to keep track of things like how much water you take with you as you go through the desert, and if you have the right tools to survive a winter expedition up a mountain. So it's very fun. It's very lighthearted fun. I've been running it a lot, and everyone's just really charmed by it. The another one that isn't officially announced yet, but what the heck, I keep dropping its name because it's a fun game and I keep running it at conventions and stuff. It's called Shinobigami. It means God of the Shinobi. And it's basically a one-shot game where you and everyone else is a ninja, and it's a real drama-focused game. I mean, it can be lighthearted or whatever, but it's really like, it's not about like running around killing things. It's all about like, there's something, everyone's in a different clan, everyone's after that something, and you're all running and trying to capture for the clan. And yet
Sort of a rat race?
Sort of a rat race, but at the same time, you are in love with that character over there. That character there is siblings with this character over here. This character over here is secretly a demon, and that so everyone's sort of tied to each other at the same time. So it produces really, 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 really awesome stories. If anyone in your group is familiar with the game Fiasco, it's a little bit like Fiasco, but with a German board game element in terms of like combat and stuff. But yeah, it's one of those games where you basically pull it out, kind of like Maid. You pull it out. It's a little bit more complicated than Maid to learn the first time, but you pull it out. You roll up you make some characters up. You play for like 3 hours, then you put it back on the shelf, and maybe you'll come back to it, maybe you won't. But in the course of those 3 or 4 hours, you've told a really cool story, and that's what the focus of the game is. Just like not the campaign that lasts for months, just one shot, tell a really cool story, maybe come back to the same characters later on, maybe not, but just get in, get that story, get out.
Now, since that one isn't officially announced yet, well, we kind of let the cat out of the bag, but is there any place to check up on that, or do you let us know and we'll let listeners know?
Aside from Shinobigami, like if you look up Shinobigami on Google, you'll find some people's DeviantArt pages and stuff like that, but we have shinobigami.com, which is literally just a picture of a fight, and that's it. But you'll also, if you type in like Shinobigami RPG, you'll be taken to my co-translator, Matthew. He has been blogging about it for a while, and talking about how cool it is and things like that. However, since it's not officially announced, but we're in that state where we're like, we're working on too many other things to really get a PR together at this point. But we don't mind telling people it's coming out eventually, probably next year at some point. But we don't have a lot of solid like information like we did to put together like for the Maid RPG website. So that's coming probably the next few months.
Well, now, are there any other events coming up that you're going to be at, or where any of your games will be at, so the listeners can kind of get a chance to play it themselves in case they're like, well, I don't know, I've never tried any of these things.
Yeah. So let's see. If you're going to, if you're in the Northeast and there's the was it Connecticut? Is that what it's called?
Kineticon?
Kineticon, that's it. My apologies. It's an anime / gaming / fiction con, and a bunch of my friends are going to be there running various RPGs. Maid will be available for sale there. I'm not sure if Maid official demos are going on, but I'm sure that anyone at the booth would be able to run you through a quick example of what it's like. And I have other friends that are running awesome games there too, including Marvel Superheroes, which is a wonderful game. On the left coast, if you're in Seattle and Portland anime cons, we usually have a representative there from that Cell Style group. Usually Jake Richmond again, who does the Modest Medusa web comic, which is it's very very cute. It's I can't even begin to describe how much I'm in love with that comic. Um, and so there's always events on the left coast. And in the middle, Gen Con is coming up soon, which is the big gaming convention. I'm not sure if there's official sessions scheduled for that, but Made will be available for sale there as well.
Awesome. Now, for people who want to stalk you on the interwebs in a nice way, do you do the Twitter and Facebook thing, or do you have
Yep.
your own blog?
Yeah. I blog about Tenra stuff on that Tenra RPG. But yeah, my name is Andy Kitkowski, Kitkwski, and you can find me on G+. I pretty much have most of my posts open, and a lot of them are about gaming in general. So if you're interested in gaming, feel free to hit me up. I also do some Twitter. I'm kind of like I've got this weird love-hate relationship where I'll post a ton of it for like months, and then I'll go silent for a few weeks. But my handle there is Diamond Sutra, just like in the Made book. That's Diamond Sutra, one word, Diamond, and then Sutra.
And now, since we're actually nearing the end of this interview, I was wondering if we could put you on a spot and basically ask if you'd be willing to participate in a 91.8 The Fan tradition.
Okay, what's that?
We ask everyone if they'd be willing to do a radio bump, and for those of you not in the know, that's basically say a line for us.
Yep, I'd be more than happy to do something like that.
Sweet. The trick of it, however, is that we do the takes live on air. So if you mess up, everybody hears it.
Oh, sweet.
Basically, we ask if you'd be willing to say, hello, my name is, you insert your name. I do this. You can say what roles you were on specific games or what you've worked on, whatever you want to put there. And you're tuned into 91.8 The Fan.
All right.
So whenever you're ready.
Okay, well, I'm Andy Kitkowski. I am a geek of society, language, and manga. I translate RPGs from Japanese to English, and I'm a big fan of Radio 91 or 91.8 The Fan.
That worked out. We can cut that. Too bad. And thank you very much for doing that. Most people really struggle with it if they're not used to doing it in their daily lives. But
oh yeah, I don't have a real good, if I worked on it for a bit, I'd have the my radio voice. Welcome to Radio 91.8 The Fan. Yeah, this is Diamond Sutra exploding on the scene with manga and RPGs. Raw, that sort of thing. But
we're totally going to use that now. Just so you know. Is there anything?
I will totally let you do that.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell the listeners out there?
Yes, if you're interested in learning Japanese, go for it. Start young. Find classes. I started late in my life, and I've been learning for 18 years. And it's still a work in progress. I'm at the JPLT 1 level, but I'm still I'm always finding the next thing. Like, now I want to translate ancient Japanese. So if you're interested in all in Japanese, learning it seriously, whether it's career or for fun, get in there young. There's probably some community college around you that teaches it, or some group in your area that teaches it. Definitely look for them. Get in there, learn it seriously with a class. You'll be glad you did. It will break your brain.
It's already broken mine.
Yes.
But thanks so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you very much, Jackie.
And for anybody out there that missed any of this interview, don't fret. It'll be up on the website within the next few days, so keep your eyes peeled to 918thefan.com and your ears tuned to 91.8 The Fan, where we play everything you want and nothing you don't. Coming up next is Kana with her song, Girlfriend.